Ever get that feeling? Opening a software update and there's just like a million pages of terms and conditions. And you're kind of just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Just click right through. Cybersecurity compliance, it can feel a bit like that sometimes, right? It's important, sure, but man, it can be overwhelming, especially with all these new regulations popping up faster than you can keep track. So what can you do about it? Well, that's what we're diving into today. We're looking at two very different approaches to cybersecurity compliance. On the one hand, we've got our trusty traditional GRC platforms, and on the other, we've got this new kid on the block, the ComplianceAide. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much better idea of which path might be the right fit for you. So let's start with what we know, right? Those traditional GRC platforms. Our research kind of paints them as the GPS of the compliance world. They give you that snapshot of where you stand with all the regulations. So walk me through it a bit. Why are these platforms so popular? What's the big draw?
Well, it's really about getting that central command, that single source of truth for your compliance posture. You can think of GRC platforms almost like the control towers of the compliance world. They bring in all this information from every corner of your organization, different departments, different systems, and put it all in one place. And what's really cool, because they're constantly monitoring everything, you get that real-time feedback. It's like having a heart rate monitor, but for your company's compliance.
I like that, a real-time pulse check for your compliance. Now, I did notice our research mentioned two main types of these platforms, traditional and then those that are network integrated. I'm guessing traditional ones, those are the ones pulling data from, like reports and policies. The network integrated ones are directly plugged into your systems, right? But, and maybe this is me being a little too skeptical, but is there a downside to this whole GPS analogy? Can GRC platforms, sometimes lead you a bit astray?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great point. You've hit on a really crucial limitation there because you're right. A GPS, it can tell you where you are, but it can't always tell you the best route to take, or how to avoid those roadblocks along the way. And it's the same with GRC platforms. They're amazing at post-compliance. Like they'll tell you if you're compliant right now at this very moment. But when we're talking about proactive compliance, actually getting compliant and staying ahead of the curve with all these changes, they're not always the best roadmap for that.
Okay, so that's where this ComplianceAide thing comes in. This is what really has my attention. It's described as compliance as a service, a CaaS, they call it. It's almost like having your own personal compliance coach in your corner. And one of the sources even went as far as to call it a seasoned guide for that compliance journey.
Yeah.
So what makes this approach different? How is it more than just a GPS?
It's kind of like if you had a guide, right, who not only handed you a map, but then also took the time to teach you how to read it, showed you those potential pitfalls, and then even helped you plan the most efficient route. That's the ComplianceAide. Instead of just showing you where you are, it actually helps you get to where you need to be. And that's where the AI comes in. See, the ComplianceAide, it uses AI to take care of all those compliance tasks that would normally eat up tons of your time and resources.
Okay, I gotta say, that does sound pretty slick. So what does that look like in action? Our research mentioned something about document generation.
Exactly. So picture this, never having to create another boring compliance document from scratch again. The ComplianceAide can just generate them for you, all tailored to your specific needs. And it doesn't stop there. It can also put together a whole risk treatment plan, so you're not just checking boxes, but actually mitigating those risks. Plus, it generates security overview reports, which give you that clear picture of your overall security posture.
So it's like having a whole team of compliance experts on tap, but without the extra salaries. That could be huge, especially for smaller organizations that maybe don't have the budget for a dedicated team.
Absolutely. It really levels the playing field, makes these powerful compliance tools accessible to everyone.
Now, something else that caught my eye in the research was this emphasis on data sovereignty with the ComplianceAide. That's got to be important. Can you break that down for us a little? What is it and why should we care?
You got it. Data sovereignty, it's all about control. Your control. It basically means your data is stored and managed within the regulations of your own country. It's not just floating around on some random server who knows where. And this day and age, with all the data breaches and privacy concerns, knowing where your data is and who has access to it, well, that's crucial.
Yeah, it makes sense. So whenever I'm clicking through those terms and conditions, part of me always wonders where my data is actually going. Okay, so we've been pretty gung-ho about the ComplianceAide so far, but let's, flip the script for a sec. Even the best tools, they've got their downsides, right? What about those GRC platforms? What are some of the potential drawbacks we should watch out for?
You're right. No solution is perfect. Got to look at it from all sides.
Hmm.
And while GRC platforms, they definitely have their strengths, they do come with some potential downsides. One thing that jumped out in our research was this whole challenge of infrastructure access. A lot of times, these platforms need access to your systems to do all that monitoring they're so good at. But, and this is a big but, that can mean giving a third party access to, well, everything. And for some organizations, especially in those highly regulated industries, that's just a non starter.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Security is paramount. It's like giving someone a key to your house. You want to be darn sure you trust them.
Exactly. And even if you're okay with that level of access, then you've got the question of data storage. Where is all that sensitive compliance data actually going? How's it being protected? These are questions every organization needs to ask before they even think about signing on the dotted line with a GRC platform.
Right. It's like choosing a bank. You want to make sure your valuables are actually secure. Speaking of security, I saw our research also mentioned something about integration challenges with GRC platforms. Sounds a bit technical.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us non-techies?
Of course.
Yeah.
So think about it. You've spent all this time building your tech stack, all your different software systems, everything's working together, hopefully. Then you bring in this GRC platform, and it needs to talk to all those different parts. And sometimes, well, they just don't play nice. It's like trying to get your old record player to work with your fancy new wireless headphones. You might need some kind of special adapter, and even then, it's not always a perfect fit.
So instead of making things easier, it can actually create even more headaches.
Exactly. And that's not even the end of it. Even if you do get everything integrated, a lot of times you need specialized knowledge to actually use these platforms effectively. That means training for your team, which of course adds to the cost and the time commitment. And we can't forget about those vendor integrations. GRC platforms often need to talk to other third-party tools, things you might be using for security or data management. Getting all of that to play nice together, that can be a whole other can of worms.
It's like a domino effect. One integration issue leads to a whole cascade of problems. So we've got potential security risks, data storage concerns, integration headaches. Anything else we should add to the list of things to watch out for?
Oh, there's one more big one our research highlighted, the limitations of technology itself. You see, GRC platforms, they're fantastic at tracking data and flagging potential issues, but some security controls, they just can't be fully addressed by software alone. Things like human behavior, company culture, security awareness training, those all rely on people, not just platforms.
Good point.
Yeah.
You can have the Fort Knox of security systems, but if someone forgets to lock the front door, well, it's all for nothing.
Exactly. Technology is a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet.
Okay, so we've really dug into those GRC platforms. We've seen the good, the bad, and the kind of ugly. We've also got to explore this ComplianceAide approach, which, I'm not going to lie, sounds pretty impressive. But I guess the big question is, how do you know which one's right for you? How do you choose?
You know, it really comes down to finding that perfect fit. If real-time data gets you going, if you're all about having that centralized compliance hub, and you've got the resources to deal with those integration speed bumps we talked about, well, a GRC platform, it might be right up your alley. But if you're after something more proactive, something that's streamlined, especially if you're working with maybe a tighter budget or you don't have a whole team of compliance gurus on staff, well then, the ComplianceAide might be the way to go.
It's kind of like, what's a good analogy? It's like deciding between hiring a personal chef or signing up for one of those meal kit services, right? Yeah. They can both get you delicious food. But the best option really depends on what you can afford, how much time you have, and how much control you want over the cooking process, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. It's about knowing yourself and what you need. Do you want that convenience of a prepackaged solution, or are you ready to roll up your sleeves and get a little more hands-on with the customization?
Now, one thing I keep coming back to, and maybe you can shed some light on this for me, our research talked about how GRC platforms are great for what they call post-compliance. Telling you where you stand at this very moment. But then the ComplianceAide, that's all about proactive compliance, staying one step ahead. So paint me a picture here. What does that difference actually look like in the real world?
Sure. Let's say there's this brand new data privacy regulation. It's bad to hit your industry like like something that hits really hard. Now, a GRC platform, it might flag you as non-compliant after the fact, after the deadline's already passed. And suddenly you're scrambling to catch up, maybe facing penalties. Not good. But with the ComplianceAide, because it's got that proactive approach, it could have helped you get ready beforehand. Like it could have walked you through all those necessary policy updates, generated the documents you need, even run risk assessments, all before that regulation even landed.
Wow, okay, I see what you mean. So instead of always putting out fires, you're preventing them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference between reacting to a security breach after it's happened and having those proactive security measures in place to stop it from ever happening at all.
Exactly. And that's the power of being proactive. It's about looking ahead, seeing those challenges coming, and then tackling them head on before they become major headaches.
Well, this has been a wild ride. We've really gone deep on GRC platforms, explored this whole new world of the compliance aid, and hopefully giving you a better lay of the land when it comes to cybersecurity compliance. So as you navigate your own compliance journey, just remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand the tools, the strategies, the options out there, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions for your organization. Decisions that protect what matters most: your data, your reputation, and your peace of mind.